Hi there, welcome back to BoardBee. So, I did a little mini video to show you how you can set up NESmaker to isolate your projects. And the reason we did that excuse me, was because we're going to do some coding. And as I told you in that video, we don't want to mess with the default scripts. Or at least by doing that, we don't have to. But I also need to apologize because I told you that you could keep your old project as well. And you can, there's no problem there. But since my old project and my new project looked exactly the same, I didn't catch this one. So the thing is, if you opened up your old project and you took a look at this, then you probably would see the new graphics. And that's because both the old one and the new one is called Ghost Hunter Pete. So if this is your old project, you can change it back, and actually this gives us an opportunity to take a look at something. So if you take a look at project settings up here, we have something called tile sets. Now this is a little time consuming because you need to go through each and every graphics file and change it to the right folder. So right now, excuse me, all of these files point to the Ghost Hunter Pete folder. So you need to go here, change it to the Ghost Hunter Pete backup folder, and you need to find the right file. And you need to do that for every single file. So it's probably not worth it. But as I said, at least this gives us an opportunity to take a look at where the graphics files are, or where NESmaker handles these files. Well, let's not spend too much time on that, because this is a test project, so we don't have to worry too much about this stuff. Excuse me. But if you want to keep your old graphics, you can delete my Ghost Hunter Pete graphics assets folder and just keep your old one. Just rename it back to Ghost Hunter Pete. Alright, enough of that. So let's just move on. And I'm going to open up the new Ghost Hunter Pete project. So remember, the reason I did the last video was this thing right here under project settings. The one that said changed it to say Ghost Hunter Pete. So NESmaker points to our Ghost Hunter Pete folder where the scripts are. So that's going to help us protect the default NESmaker files. Alright, now let's get started. We have a lot of stuff on our plate today. So let's start by doing some quick repetition. We have one thing left from our Ghost Hunter Pete plan, and that's Ghost Hunter Pete's lives. Now, if we start our game right now, we can see that basically everything's working like we want, but we can only see Ghost Hunter Pete's health bar. We can't see his lives, but there is a live system working, as you can see, but we don't see it anywhere here. So let's just add lives to this sprite HUD up here. And since this is a repetition, I'm not going to spend too much time on this, but let's just do this real quick. So let's go to our pixel editor and let's open up our game object tiles file. And let's just click this 8 button and palette translation, or enable palette translation, and let's click this background palette button to get us in here. I'm gonna choose player pal 2. So I'm just gonna make lives for Ghost Hunter Pete, and I'm going to do that really quick. So this is the symbol that's going to show how many lives he has. And if you remember, when working on the sprite HUD, we need to be careful where we place our graphics here, because this is where we need to we need to give the right number to the code. And you know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to copy this one right here. Now you probably can't see it because my face is in the front of it, but I'm gonna copy the empty health unit. And I'm going to paste it in front of the other one that's filled. And I'm just going to very quickly draw a little face in here. Just going to draw Ghost Hunter Pete's face. Now, I know you probably can't see it right now because my face is in front of it, but I'm going to do this real fast. So, yeah, that's fine. Alright, so just to make sure that you can see what I've done right now, I've just drawn a Ghost Hunter Pete face right to the left of the filled health unit. Now the reason I did that is because that makes it easier to find the right number. Remember, whoops. Okay, there we go. So remember, we start counting from 0 up here and all the way down to 127 down in the right corner. So let's just save this one. And now we can go to project settings, script settings, and let's go down to our handle drawing sprite HUD file and click edit on that one. So here's the one we changed, and I've actually copied it so it has our changes in it. So we have our draw sprite HUD for the health, and that's great. But the default script also has one here for draw ammo. Now I removed that ammo stuff, so I'm going to change the comment here to say this draw lives. Alright, so a quick note about these two first numbers. Now you remember, these are where we're going to start drawing the sprite HUD. The first one, that's the x-axis, and the second one, that's the y-axis. So what do these numbers really mean? Well, let's put that into context. Let's close that one. So the NES screen has a resolution of 256 horizontally and 240 vertically. So if you're used to changing resolution on a computer display in Windows, you probably are used to thinking about it this way. But this means that we have 256 pixels across horizontally. We have 240 pixels down like that. And what we're doing right now with the sprite HUD, we start counting from the top left. So let's say we wanted the lives sprite HUD to be placed in the middle of the screen. Then we needed to divide this number by 2. So 128 would place the lives for sprite HUD right here in the middle. Same thing for this one. So you could divide both of these by 2 and you can have your sprite HUD in the middle of the screen. Obviously that's a bad idea, but that's how this works. So this is the NES screen resolution. Alright. So what does our script say right now? Now it says 16 for the x-axis, and that's a good idea. I want the lives to start drawing right underneath our health bar. That's perfect. And what's this? No, I'm sorry. We start counting from the left, so it's 16 from the left. And again, that's perfect. But it says here 24 pixels down, which will place it 8 pixels below our health bar. And let's take a look here. Okay. One of these tiles, that's a sprite tile, and one of these is 8 pixels big, tall. So that's gonna place this one right beneath our health bar, and again that's perfect. So these numbers right here, this is where we need to be aware of where we placed our graphics tile. So let's take a look at this first one. That was the empty container. Now the empty container for the lives, I just want that to be blank. So I want this empty one, oh come on, like that. I want the empty part of the lives in my sprite to be the bottom left tile in this file. So I mentioned very briefly a few episodes ago that I always like to leave the bottom right tile blank, and that's for occasions like this, and I'm going to show you something else later on. But now the bottom right tile is blank. So I said it was 127. What's that in hex? Because we have a $sign here, and that says that this number is a hexadecimal number. So let's just start our calculator in Windows, and it's already marked for decimals, so I'm going to write 127, and that's 7F in hexadecimal. So I'm going to write 7F here for the empty container, and the next one that says max. So the maximum number of lives, it says 5 here. I'm going to change that to 3. We could have put a variable in here, but let's just say that Ghost Hunter Pete can never have more than 3 lives. That should be fine. So the next one, that's the filled container. Now the filled container says 77 right now, but I made, oh come on man, I don't know why this happens, but sometimes when NESmaker loses focus, your graphics file goes away. So when you make changes, just make sure you save it before you leave this window. Anyway, the tile I want right now is the little face I drew. So that's, again, I know you probably can't see this because my face is in the way, but it's from the bottom right corner, it's 1, 2, 3 to the left. So 127, 126, 125, 124. So what's 124 in hexadecimal? 124 is 7C in hexadecimal. So let's just change this to 7C. So that's the filled container. The next one is the variable. Now it says my ammo now. I don't want that. But I do remember that we had a variable for lives. So if we go to project settings, user variables, and as you can see, there's a variable here called my lives. So this variable keeps track of how many lives we have. So let's just mark that up, copy it, and let's go back to sprite script. And let's just remove this my ammo. Let's paste in our my lives. So the last one here, as you remember, that's the attribute, and that was the sub palette to use. So what sub palette do we have? Well, if we look at the screen info, day monsters, We have player palette 2 for sub palette 2. Alright, that's perfect. So now if you remember 0 on all of these, that's the first palette, and it says 1 at the end, that's sub palette 2. Now again, I'm going to quickly go through this because we already covered this in the previous video. So I just write 1 here to get sub palette 2. So now we have plotted in starting coordinate, we have plotted in the empty graphic that we want for the empty lives, maximum number lives 3. We plotted in the filled container, the variable, and what sub palette. Alright, so let's save this file and let's just test our game to see if this works. Oh, did I press the wrong button? Okay. If you press this one, it's no big deal. It just exports the code, but it doesn't start your emulator. You need to press export and test. So, do we have lives in our sprite head? Yes, we do. So, now we can get hurt. Health bar goes down. And if we lose a life, nothing happens. Hey, that's great stuff. Not really. So, let's fix that. Because you could see I lost 2 lives, and the lives of sprite head still just displayed 3 lives. Didn't change. So, how can we fix that? Well, now we need to do some coding, and this is something new. So let's go to project settings and script settings. Maximize it. So, what's this? Well, there are so many scripts in here. Where can we go? Well, let's go down to the one that says common down here. And the first one under common says handle player hurt. So let's mark that up, and let's just make sure it says routines ghost hunter Pete here. So remember, now we're editing the new file, the isolated file. So we can change this as much as you want. The other projects won't be affected. So mark up handle player hurt and click edit. Alright, so this script is run and our player is hurt. Now there's quite a bit of stuff in here, a bit of code. So I'm not going to explain everything in detail in here, because we haven't really looked at assembly code enough to be able to keep track here. But basically what happens is that right here, at the start of the script, it checks if the action step is number 7. And number 7, if you remember, that's the hurt step. So if the player already has a hurt state, he shouldn't be able to be hit again. And we need to take a look at that as well in a little bit. But now if you say if it's not number 7, the player can be hurt. Alright. So when we get down here, we can say DEC. That's decrement or decrease. So we should decrease the health, and that works, so that's great. And there's some stuff here that says checks if the health is 0. So if it's not dead yet. So yeah, this script is it's missing something, and I'm sure you can guess what it is. It's missing some way for us to decrease lives. So player health is 0. That's down here. Now again, this is too much code to explain really quickly like this. So the thing we need to change right now is decrease the lives. But player health is 0. That's pretty easy to understand. So what's missing in here? Let's just place it down here before it says warp to screen. The only thing we need to do right now is write the same thing that we saw up here with the health. DEC my health. We need to do the same thing down here with the lives. So just write DEC space my lives like that. So the code checks if the health is 0, and if it's 0, the health bar is 0, then it's going to jump down here. And let's not go into this right now, but we need to add DEC, decrease the lives variable. So yeah, let's just do that. Let's just add DEC my lives right here in our Hurt player script, right above warp to screen. So do that and save the script. So was that enough to get our lives working in the sprite HUD? Let's take a look. Okay, so health is going down, and there we go. Now you can see I started out with 3 lives, and now our sprite HUD just displays 2 lives. And now I have only 1 life. And actually now I have 0. So a lot of these things need to be addressed, because not everything is set up like perhaps you would like from the start. You need to do some changes. So at least we fixed the lives in the sprite HUD. So when you lose a life, you can see on the sprite HUD that the lives go down. That was fairly easy to do. I just needed to add 1 line here, DEC my lives, under player health is 0. So now the lives are working as well. We need to come back to this because we are making a game over screen later on. But yeah, that was basically the last part of our plan that we had written down. So that was some repetition about the sprite HUD. And let's make our game a little more interesting. So I'm just going to have to check my cheat sheet here. And let's start by making some more background tiles. So let's go to our pixel editor. This time let's open up this first one, BCKCHR00. Now this one, that's the background tiles. And background tiles, they're not 8x8 tiles. So let's unclick this button and let's click this 16 button instead. Because background tiles, they are 16 by 16 pixels. And let's also click this monster palette button, because now we want the background palette. So these are the tiles we made so far. But let's make the backgrounds a little more interesting. We don't need to spend too much time on this, but let's just create some clouds. Now this is a quick repetition about these palettes. Now remember, you have palettes in your menu over here. You can see all these palettes, but you can actually change colors from the palettes in here as well. By doing that, you just right click the color you want. So I'm gonna right click this top right gray one in subpalette 3. Right click that one, and I'm going to choose the same blue as this one, and I think it's that. Yeah. So then I'm going to do another one. I'm going to change it to white, and the last one I want a little lighter gray, like that. So I'm going to choose the blue and just quickly going to color in these 4 tiles with the tile fill. And I'm going to do the same thing with the one on the right, like that. And just choose my pencil tool, and I'm just quickly going to draw a cloud here. Okay, that's, yeah, should be fine. So let's just color it in quickly like that. And actually sometimes it can be better to use the rectangle tool just to fill it, fill something like that, and just color it in like that. Just to make it a little more interesting, I'm going to give some shades here. This might not be the greatest cloud you've ever seen in a video game, but it's okay. Alright, that's fine. That's my cloud. So that's our cloud, and let's just make some mountains. And again, let's keep it simple. So I'm going to choose sub palette 1 for this one, and I'm going to use tile fill again and just fill 2 blocks like that. Then I'm going to do the line tool, and yeah, let's choose green here. Just draw a line diagonally like that. Do the same thing over here. I'm going to make some mountains here, and I'm going to show you something in a second. Can be a little annoying sometimes that you don't have a fill tool like in other paint programs, but usually the tiles are so small that it's not a huge issue. Alright, so here's another trick for you. I'm not going to do this on this one as well. I'm going to do it a smarter way than that. So let's choose the select tiles for cut and paste tool up here. Choose this one, mark up that one, and press Ctrl C to copy, and move your pointer over here. Hold down Shift, Ctrl and V to paste it like that. And then let's mark this one up and press H, the letter H on your keyboard. And that flips the tile horizontally. So that way we don't have to color in all this stuff all over again. So now we have our mountain over there. Okay, great. Let's save this one. But here's another thing. If we go back to our overworld, and if you remember, I think it was the first episode, we have these letters over here, Q, W, E and R. And if I press them while I'm here on our map, Q, W, E and R, it changes the palette for that specific tile to the palette you can see here. Well, obviously I don't want this, so I'm going to hold down W and I'm going to choose this palette. Hold down W and just paint like that. So that's a great option for when you're making your screens. But there's another similar thing like that that's kind of hidden in NESmaker. So now this is a little strange how this works, but if we go to pixel editor right now, just make sure you save the changes now. Save it and load BMP file. Now we're going to load a file called HUD right here. It's just called HUD. So open that one. Now normally if you're making a non-scrolling game, this would be the file you would use when you're setting up the HUD. I'm not talking sprite HUD, but I'm talking a HUD like we could see in the Castlevania game. Sprite on a normal HUD that's on top of the screen. Now we're not doing that today. We're doing something else. And here's the weird thing. Let's unclick this 16 and let's click this 8 button. So here's the weird thing. I changed this HUD thing to 8x8 tiles. And now let's color in these 3 colors, actually all 4 colors, in the bottom 4 tiles in this file. Now this is very strange. I'm going to explain it just a second. So choose the tile fill tool and just choose one of the 4 colors like that. The next one, and the final one is black anyway, so just make sure the last 4 tiles have 1 color from each of these. So let's save that one. Why on earth did we do this? It's really strange. Well, this is a little trick in NESmaker. So by doing it this way, let's go back to our overworld. Let's go back to this screen. Now, instead of using Q, W, E, and R, now here's a little hidden trick. We can press 5, 6, 7, or 8 on our keyboard. So by doing that, we don't have to make tiles for every one of, if you, let's say you're just going to have a little blank tiles like that. You don't need to spend tile space in here to make a single colored tile like that. You can just use 5, 6, 7, and 8. And it's going to choose the colors that you have here selected in your subpalette. So that's kind of a hidden thing. So just remember that this doesn't work if you haven't filled in those colors here in the HUD file. So kind of strange, but it's a little trick that actually is going to serve us later on. So that's that. But let's try making our screens a little more interesting. So I'm going to place my cloud now. And when you have graphics, background graphics that goes over more than 1 tile, you need to hold down your shift key and drag. So I'm just going to place a few clouds in there. And I'm going to press the right key on my keyboard to go to the next screen, the right. And let's place a few clouds in here as well. So something like that. Don't have to spend too much time on this. Now again, press right arrow and just paste a few more clouds in here. Yeah, sure, that's fine. Excuse me. And let's try this mountain thing. So I'm going to choose the left side of my mountain. I'm just going to draw it like that. And I'm going to choose the right side of the mountain and just draw something like that. Now, how can we fill this middle thing? Well, here's where that 5, 6, 7 thing comes in. So if I press 5 now, I get this color. If I press 6, I get this color. If I press 7, I get this color. But if I press 8, I get this color. And that's perfect, because now we can finish drawing our mountain without making another tile. So just by making 2 tiles, we can make a mountain like this. And let's just go to the right and do the same thing. Just make a small mountain here, like that. Press escape to get a free tile there. And let's just click 8 in here to fill it with brown. And just go 1 right again, Let's make one more mountain. Just a small one. Like that. Escape, and let's click 8 and just paint those. So now our screens look a little more interesting. That's great stuff. But we still only have 3 screens here. Let's do some more repetition. So let's choose this middle one right here. Just hold your mouse cursor over it and press Ctrl C. And move over here. Hold your cursor to the right of our last screen. Just hold cursor here, Ctrl V to paste it. And one more. Just move one more to the right, Ctrl V to paste it. Okay, so now you can see, we see our screen on the left here, and it doesn't quite match up. So remember, now we can hold down the Shift key and drag like that. Actually, let's take 3 by 3 here and press Ctrl C to copy it, and I'm going to move it up here so it lines up the screen on the left. And let's not forget to check the collisions. So click the collision button, and you can see we're missing some 1 tiles here. And 1 tiles over here on the collision, those are the solid tiles. So choose solid and hold down 0. Just paste ones in there like that. So now we can continue, go down here. And actually, I'm not quite sure Ghost Hunter Pete can jump this high. So let's move this one up 1 tile like that. And I'm going to paint the collision there and a null there. So it just follows the terrain like that. Alright, that's that screen. Let's press right to go to the next one. Let's do something similar. Yeah. I'm going to do something like that, just to get a little variety. But I'm going to paint over these ones, like that. Actually, this might be a little confusing visually. So I'm going to do something like that. And yeah, that's fine. But let's not forget to check the collisions. So I have selected null here. So I'm just going to choose some solids, and there we go. Now we have ones following the terrain like that. Obviously, since we copied the screens, they're going to look kind of similar. That's fine. We're not making a masterpiece here. So here's another thing. Now, if you remember when we were setting up our scrolling screen, we said that the first one, that was the screen info, that was a left edge for scroll. So we can't scroll further left than this. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. Close that one. And our number 3 screen right here, that was our right edge for scroll. So we couldn't scroll further right. Now that's not a right edge for scroll anymore. So let's go into our 3rd screen, screen info, and uncheck right edge for scroll for this one, because now we want to be able to scroll further than this. We want to be able to scroll all the way over here. So let's go into the last screen you made here, and screen info, and this can be our new right edge for scroll. So now we have left edge for scroll here, right edge for scroll here, and nothing between here. Don't forget, when we have scrolling levels, NESmaker only observes screen info from this first screen. So for example, the palettes you set up here, the kind of monsters you set up, those are only read from this first screen on scrolling levels. Now, as I said, that's almost 100% true, but it does observe this one. This is right edge for scroll. So that's good. But there's also another thing we need to remember. Now, before you can place monsters, you need to go into screen info, day monsters, and choose a monster group. So this monster group is red when a game starts. But in order to place monsters, we actually need to go into each of our screens on the scrolling level, and we need to choose monster groups here as well. If not, we wouldn't be able to place monsters like that. So those things are also read by NESmaker. But you can see now that because I didn't change any of these sub-palettes, our ghost is red. But that doesn't really matter. If you want to be tidy, you can set up the correct sub-palettes. But when you start the game, that won't matter. Why? Well, because like I just said, on scrolling games, only this screen, on NESmaker only reads this screen. So when you start your game, these are the sub-palettes for your scrolling level. So palettes don't really matter. But we need to go into each screen, screen info, day monsters, and choose a monster group just to be able to place monsters. So let's just move this one up here like that, so the ghost can move a little back and forth. So I'm going to place a small ghost there. Yeah, and I'm going to go to the next screen. Let's do the same thing here. Yeah, let's remove those. And again, we need to choose what day monster group to use in here. I just place my monster there. So we have placed our monsters, and when we start our game, these are going to be white. So actually, let's just test that out right now. Okay. And there we have our white ghost. And another white ghost. Yeah, and another one. So we can scroll all the way over here. Perfect. Now there are a few things there. Someone commented that when the player gets hit, he just flies away, and just kind of weird. You lose control over your player and stuff like that. And yes, if you don't do anything, that's basically the default behavior. But why does that happen? Well, remember, when the player gets hit, he changes to action step 7. So let's go to our game objects here. Let's go to our player. If you go to object details up here and actions, these are the player's action steps. And remember, 0, that's idle, 1, that's walk, 2, that's jump. We don't really have any other ones here. This one right here, action step number 7, this is the action step that the player changes into. So we haven't set up anything here. So that's why the player just goes wild and you lose control. It's just kind of weird. So let's really quick just make some hurt animation for our player. Let's go to pixel editor and let's go to game object tiles where our player is, and let's just make sure we have monster palette selected. So I'm going to do this real quick. I'm going to choose select tiles. I'm going to copy this one. I'm going to paste it in here. And I'm going to I'm just going to move him back a few pixels like that. And I'm going to move his head like that, and let's just move his feet a little like that. Let's just try to make it look like he's being hit. So something like that, and maybe his arm is going like that, and his eyes closed, and maybe we can even make him let's see, let's just do that. So this is what he's going to look like when he's hurt. So I'm just going to make one frame. So I'm going to save this one, and I'm going to go back to my player object. Now you need to go to object details, and now this is a new animation type. We have idle, we have walk, we have jump, but we also need another one. I'm going to add one, and I'm going to call it hurt. Okay. Now we can't choose any one of these, so we need to go out here to manage animations, and we need to add one for hurt right, rename that, and add one for hurt left, rename that one. So for my hurt right, I want there we go, I want to have this guy, but remember our top two tiles are subpalette 2, so just make sure he looks like that. So this is hurt right, and I'm just going to keep it for, yeah, let's just have one frame for that. And the hurt left, I'm going to choose the same thing again. Just make sure we have subpalette 2 for the top two ones, like that. But now this is hurt left, so we need to flip the frame like that. So now we have hurt left and we have hurt right, but we're not quite done yet. We need to go back to object details. We need to go to hurt, and for right let's choose hurt right, and for left let's choose hurt left, like that. Alright, so that's the animation part of this. But let's not forget in actions here. When he goes to action step 7, which happens when a ghost hits him, then he goes to action step 7. Right now it just says idle and nothing's really set up here. So let's choose animation type hurt for action step 7. And let's, for animation speed, remember he just has one frame of animation. And remember, the lower the number, the faster the animation goes. So let's try number 2, see how that looks. But here's the important part. For end animation here, for action step 7, end animation, we are going to go to first. What does that mean? Well, first, that's action step 0 up here. So when the animation is done for action step 7, it's going to go back to this one, which is idle. So it's just going to have the hurt animation for just a little second, and then it goes back to action step 0, idle. So that should work. Let's close that one. And let's test to see if Ghost Hunter Pete has a hurt animation now. Alright. Should probably have changed Ghost Hunter Pete's paths. Alright. Yeah. He definitely got hurt. So let's see if we can see it better now. Yeah, he's kind of small, so it's hard to see. But he does definitely have his hurt animation. But it goes very quickly, and he doesn't have any invincibility time or anything like that, so he's hurt all over again. Let's go back to object details, actions, number 7. Let's try to set this for maybe 5. That might be too much, but let's try that. Okay, so now his animation speed for the hurt animation is 5. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, so now he has more of a classic knockback when he's hit. He flies back a little bit. Yeah, that might work. Now, you're not going to get it perfect when you're making this game. Ideally, you would have something like your character blinking and have some invincibility time or something like that. But that takes quite some time. We have a lot of stuff to cover, so I won't be covering that in these tutorials. But you can do stuff like that. But for now, let's just say this is fine. You have some sort of knockback, and yeah, it's okay. It's okay for this game. So that's that. But there's one more thing that would make the game a little more interesting, a little more satisfying. And that's when you shoot the ghosts. Right now, with the first shot, you can see it flashes red. But the second shot, it just disappears. How about if we could make the ghosts sort of explode? Sort of a monster death animation, something like that. Alright, let's try to make that. So let's go to our pixel editor right here. And what do we have here? We have, yeah, sure. Let's use monpile1 for this. So I'm just going to draw a little explosion here. And I'm just going to do something like that. And sure. This might look a little weird, but I'm gonna try to have it make sense. So, oops. There we go. So I've created 3 frames like that. Now it looks strange right now. Hopefully we can make it look a little better than this. Alright, sure. So if we save this, we can go back to game objects. Now this is important. When you're creating stuff like this, make it in game object tiles. Because what are we going to do right now? We're going to make a monster death animation. And I'm going to make that an object. So make this graphics in game object tiles. Let's go to game objects over here. And let's just choose one of these. Doesn't really matter actually. So let's choose this one that says projectile. And I'm going to set up my palettes like this. And I'm going to choose this one. So why did I just make 3 small ones, weird ones like that? Well, if we make this one 2 tiles tall and 2 tiles wide, we can do something here. So I'm going to choose this first one I drew. I'm going to choose that for all of my 4 tiles. So like that. And the thing we can do right now is flip these individual frames. So I'm going to flip this one horizontally. I'm going to flip this one vertically. Just click these checkboxes and that particular frame will flip. And this one in the lower right corner, I'm going to flip both vertically and horizontally. So now we have sort of a little circle instead. And let's make this one 3 frames. So this is frame number 1. Now, how about frame number 2? Alright, let's try the next frame here. So fill it with that one. Like that. And let's do the same thing with this flipping stuff. So this one flip horizontally, this one flip vertically, and this lower right one flip both vertically and horizontally. And I'm going to now here's a little trick. I'm going to copy this frame, and for frame 3 I'm going to paste this frame. So the same one. Now why did I do that? Well, when you copy a frame, it also copies these selections, the ones that are flipped horizontally and vertically. So now instead of choosing the right palette and doing all this checkbox stuff, I can just choose what graphics I want. And this is frame 3, the last one, so I'm going to choose the last of those graphics I made. Like that. So how does this animation look? Yeah, it's nothing. Sure, that's fine. That's our ghost explosion, whatever. All right. Actually, let's call this one Monster Death. This is our Monster Death object. Let's go to Object Details. And we don't need to change anything in animations. Really don't have to do anything in here. But let's click Ignore Gravity for this one. Now, this object spawns, it will automatically have action step 0. So that's why we can click Ignore Gravity for action step 0. Now remember, these ones, you have individual ones for each of your action steps. But we're only going to have action step 0 for this one. So click Ignore Gravity. And animation speed, let's just click 1 here. Let's just have a quick explosion like that. But what about when the animation is done for this monster object explosion? Well, when we end the animation, I want it to be destroyed. So for end animation, click Destroy Me. So the ghost disappears and a monster death object spawns in the same place. You have an explosion animation, and then that object just goes away. That should work. So just make sure you have Destroy Me for the end animation here. And bounding box, I'm not sure we need it, but just make a little bounding box here in the middle. Alright, click close on that one. So now we have our monster death object, and that's object number 0, 1, 2, 3. So our monster death object is object number 3. Alright, so does this work right now? Can I just kill a ghost and it will explode? No. We have to tell NESmaker that this is what we want to do. So we have to go to project settings and script settings. Excuse me. So now we have looked at player hurt or handle player hurt, but there's also one here called handle monster hurt. So we need to take a look at that one. So mark handle monster hurt and click edit, and just make sure it says Ghost Hunter Pete before you click edit. Alright, so this is the hurt monster script. Alright, so what does this thing do? Well, it does kind of some stuff is the same as the player. You can't hurt the monster if it's already in action step 0, if it's already in the hurt state, stuff like that. And it also decreases the object's health. Alright. And it checks branch if not equal. So if the object health, the monster's health, is 0, is it 0? Well, if it is 0, you go into here. If not, it skips this one. So here it says destroy object, and that's correct. We can see that when the hit, excuse me, when a ghost's health is 0, it goes away. Alright, and that's fine. But we also need that object, that monster death object, that explosion. We also want that to be there. So let's just add something in front of this destroy object thing. Let's just add a line in here under where it says do skip hurting this object. That's down here. So, but since it's the monster health is 0, we want this thing right here to happen. What do we want to happen? Well, we need to create an object. How can we do that? Well, luckily in NESmaker, if you remember, we have these things called macros. And there's a macro called create object on screen. This one right here. So that's the one that we're going to use. Now we're going to I don't want to call it cheat, but we're going to do it the easy way. So let's go to our shoot projectile script under input scripts. And actually, when you shoot a projectile, that's also the game creating an object for each of your projectiles. So let's copy where it says create object on screen. It's sort of in the middle of your shoot projectile script. Well, maybe a little below the middle. Let's just copy that line. It says create object on screen. Actually, you know what? How does our monster... Yeah, you know what? Let's copy this whole thing. Except where it says LDX player object. So copy everything from LDA object x high, comma x. Copy everything from there all the way to create object on screen, that line. So let's copy that one. And let's paste it in here. Let's make it a little tidy. Okay, so by now you might be thinking, what the heck is going on here? Well, now we borrowed some of our code from our shoot projectile script. Now remember what I told you, what happens in our shoot projectile script. There's some calculations here, and it checks for the X position and the Y position of the player. And it stores that in temporary variables. And at the end, there's a macro that creates the projectile object. Now this is for the shoot projectile script. So by we're basically doing the same thing, but instead of shooting a projectile, we want to create a monster explosion. So it's the same thing. We have an object, and we need to find where that object is on the screen. And we have that position. We can create an object exactly at the same position. And in our case now, we're going to create a monster explosion. So that's why we can use the exact same thing here. But we don't copy this LDX player 1 because we don't want this monster explosion to appear over the player. That would look kind of weird. So that's why we don't copy that player 1 thing. So now it's going to load the X and Y position of the monster. and it's going to create an object on screen. But I need to change something here, because this macro says the X and the Y position, but the third one for this macro, that was what object do you want to create. For the shoot projectile, there was a variable here called temp C. We don't have that in here, so let's remove that temp C thing. So we have temp A, temp B, that's fine, but what object? Let's go back to NESmaker. Alright, so we have player, that's object 0. Object 0, 1, 2, 3. So our monster death object is object number 3. Okay, so let's go back to our monsterHurt script here. And remember, in assembly code, when you're using numbers, we need to have a hashtag in front of it. And let's use a dollar symbol to show that this is an hexadecimal number. And 0, 3, like that. So now you're going to have the object number 3 created right before the ghost object is destroyed. Now, if you find this a little frustrating, very confusing, kinda a little hard to work with, then that's understandable, because assembly code can be a little hard to get into, but just do what I do here and try to follow along. Let's at least start by doing that until we get familiar with assembly language. So if you copied everything from the shoot projectile script that I told you, pasted it in the hurt monster script between do skip hurting this object and destroy object. So if you pasted that right in here and changed this third value to 3. Excuse me. So let's save that one and let's see if this works. Now we expect an explosion. Oh, branch out of range. So we have an error here. Hurt monster. When you get an error, it says the error message like this, and right before it says a number. That's the line number in your assembly file. And it's the same script, hurt monster, and we have line 5 and line 11. So there's an error in line 5 and 11. Alright, number 5, that's this one. Number 11, that's this one. So the error here is that these branch commands, they can't branch an unlimited range. They can actually just branch so far. So we need to do this another way. Here it says, let's do this one first, number 5. It says branch if equal, do skip hurting this object. That's down here, it skips down there. Now, instead of doing it that way, this might be a little weird, but we're going to reverse the logic here. So here it says branch if equal. Let's reverse this to branch if not equal. Why? Well, because by doing it that way, we can just branch one tiny little line down here, and then we can continue. I don't know if I should spend too much time explaining this, because this is a bit of how assembly code works. But I'm going to show you real quick here. Here it says do skip hurting this object. I'm going to make one right here that says do. Actually, let's just make a plus, make it look like the last one. Do not skip hurting this object, and a colon at the end. So I said we're going to reverse it. Now it says branch if equal. We need to change it from BEQ to BNE. BNE stands for branch if not equal. Now what's going on with this branching thing? Well, basically, it's just checking. This is the hurt monster script. Is the action step 0 for the monster? Is the monster in the hurt state, or is it not in the hurt state? That's why we're comparing with 0 here. So, is it in the hurt state? Is it not in the hurt state? Now, I've written branch if not equal here now. So, we need to change this one as well. So, do not skip hurting. So, what's going to happen now? We're checking the monster. Is it in action step 7? Is it? No. Okay, then go here. So branch if not equal. And where should we branch? Do not skip hurting this object. The one that I just made down here. So if it's not in action step 0, we're going to continue this code. But if it is, remember, if it is, it's just going to continue the code. Right now it's blank, so we need to jump down here and skip this code. We don't want to run the hurt code if the monster is in a hurt state. So I'm going to write JMP, that's the jump command, and I'm going to paste this label down here. So, is the monster in action step 0? No or yes? Well, no, it's not action step 0. Okay, then branch if not equal to the label that says do not skip hurting this object. That's this one. So it's not in action step 0. Okay, we jump here, and we continue the hurt monster code. But if it is action step 0, so branch if not equal, but if it is equal, we continue the code, and then it says jump, do skip hurting object. Now that's gonna skip all this code and just jump down here. That's very briefly what this script does right now. And the important part now is that we want to check if the code we added just now, if that's going to work for our monster death animation. So save this one. Now I know if this is a lot, you know, it's all this assembly stuff and all that. So maybe you have to pause the video, rewind a little bit, do whatever you need. So don't stress out over this, because all of this assembly stuff is going to come over time. Just takes a little practice. So now, first of all, do we get any more error messages? Actually, you know what? We probably do, because there was another one. This one. It complained about this one as well. So it's actually the same thing we did up here. Do skip hurting this object. So what we can do is we can actually do the same thing. Let's just copy that one and paste it in here. But it already said BNE, branch if not equal, so we need to change it to branch if equal. Oh, what's this all about? Well, this one is loading the object health of the monster. So let's just finish up with this one. So we're loading at the start of the code, we're loading the object's the monster's health. Is it 0? Well, if it is 0, then branch here. Branch if equal. Do not skip hurting this object. But what if it's not 0? Well, then we need to have something happen in here. And let's just do the same thing we did up there, which is jump, do skip hurting this object. So if the monster still has health left, then you need to skip this. Yeah, that's going to work. Because before we do that, we decrease the monster's health. So we decrease the health, check after we decreased it, is it 0? And then we decide whether we want to run this death script or not. Again, I understand if you feel this a little complicated, but let's try this out. How does this look? Does the monster have a hurt animation or a death animation? So let's pick up this our power up. Actually, it doesn't work. And let's take a look. So I had to stop the recording to take a look at the code, and I can see where I went wrong here. We just copied in this thing from the shoot projectile script. Now what's going on here is that we're creating a new object right here, the monster death object, but on the next line down here it says destroy object. So what's going on is that we create the monster explosion object and it's immediately destroyed. So what we need to do right now is we need to move this destroy object, just mark it up and just cut it out, and we need to move it above the create object on screen macro. So now this thing is going to destroy the ghost, and after that then the monster death object will appear, and that destroys itself. As you remember, when the animation is over, we chose destroy me for that. So let's see if this works now. So save this file, go back to NESmaker, and now let's see. Now let's see if our ghost explodes. So, okay, here we go. So the moment of truth. One hit and it flashes red. The next hit and he explodes. Perfect. So, oh, there's a duplicate. We need to look at that later. Whoops. But as you can see, our monsters explode now. So now we have created a monster death animation. Alright, well, that's enough for now. Now I was hoping to make a boss in this video as well, but this video has been going on too long, so I'm going to make another one very soon. But for now, again, good work. If you got this working, that's really nice, because as you can see, things are starting to get pretty complicated right now. So, have a nice day. I'll see you soon, and bye bye. Now before you leave, let me just give you one more piece of advice. If you need help with NESmaker, there's a great community at NESmakers.com. If you haven't already, I really recommend that you register there, because there are always people there ready to help you. So with that said, bye bye.